It turns out that we've been being deceived all this time. These shots are far from reality. In fact, space isn't pitch black or cold, and a person won't die there in a matter of seconds. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? So, what truth about space was hidden from us for years? Space isn't actually black, and all these scenes with astronauts falling into the vast black abyss should be much more colorful instead. The thing is that the universe is constantly expanding. The farther away another galaxy is, the longer the light waves coming from it are. In the end, the waves expand so much that they go into the infrared range, invisible to humans, but it doesn't mean that space is really dark. Even ordinary long-exposure cameras can capture much more in the night sky than we mere mortals can see, let alone some special devices that can capture waves in different ranges. However, a person would have a chance to see all the play of radiant colors if the universe suddenly became static, which is called Olber's paradox. In our infinite universe, there are stars anywhere you go. If the universe stopped expanding, the entire sky would be as bright as the surface of our sun, no matter whether it's day or night. However, because of the light stretching, instead of numerous stars, we only see black gaps. But Olber's paradox isn't the only phenomenon that filmmakers often get stuck on. Otherwise, they would have figured out long ago why starships don't freeze in space. In fact, it's pretty difficult to completely freeze in space, as it's not really cold. So instead of scenes where spaceships get immediately covered with ice, it would be better to show how they melt. Take, for example, the James Webb Space Telescope. Although it's located at a distance of 300 million kilometers from the sun, the radiation is so high that it needs to be constantly cooled down. And for that, it has a 5-layer sun visor and an active cryocooler ensuring the normal operation of extremely sensitive electronics. But the ISS and Hubble Space Telescope aren't that lucky because they fly in the Earth's thermosphere at a distance of up to 700 kilometers from our planet. This layer is special because the substance there can be heated up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, let me remind you that steel can melt at temperatures from 1,350 to 1,535 degrees Celsius. So why haven't the devices melted yet? It's just that scientists managed to come up with several life hacks. First, there's the white surface that simply reflects unnecessary radiation. Then there's also excessive heat protection on the ISS, which is basically multi-layer insulation made of biaxially oriented polyethylene terephthalate and Dacron. Despite its thickness being only 0.007 of a millimeter, such material can withstand temperature fluctuations of 200 degrees, and inside the station itself, the indicators change by only half a degree. This is pretty impressive, right? The principle is totally the same for spacesuits as well. It's hard to believe, but more often they have to save astronauts not from cold, but from unbearable heat. However, spacesuits still accumulate human heat, later distributing it over the entire body. But what for if we already know that space is far from being as cold as we've been told for years? Of course, there are still some cold spots in space, but surprisingly, the coldest part of our system is on the moon. According to New Scientist, in 2009, the temperature inside the dark crater on the moon was minus 240 degrees Celsius. However, even there, the setting looks far from the well-known ice planets directors love to recreate. But what if we go beyond the solar system? Here, everything is also complicated. As you might know, when the volume of matter is abruptly reduced, the matter heats up, and vice versa. If the volume rapidly expands, the temperature drops. Out of all the gas and plasma-rich objects in the universe, it's red giants that expand the fastest. As a result, their external layers create protoplanetary nebulae. This means that we should look for the coldest parts of space there and not in intergalactic space, which seems much emptier and cooler. At the moment, the coldest place is considered to be the Boomerang Nebula, where the temperature is even lower than that of the cosmic microwave background and always stays at minus 272 degrees Celsius. But instead of ice chunks and frost, there's only a deserted vacuum. Though I guess a spacewalk scene is usually portrayed the most inaccurately in movies. But why? The fact is that a person without a spacesuit in outer space won't freeze. Even in the Boomerang Nebula, a body will grow completely cold after some time, up to 26 hours or so. But why is that? It all boils down to density. Have you ever noticed that a person can stay in a sauna with 90 degrees Celsius inside for quite a long time, but it's not so easy to put your hand inside a pan with nearly boiling water? This is all because in a denser environment, there are much more particles that get into contact with an object. In space, the density of matter is extremely low, with only 10 atoms per cubic meter in some places. For comparison on Earth, each cubic meter of air contains around 10 trillion molecules. That's why even in the coldest parts of the universe, you won't turn into ice, but rather become something like a lamp slowly giving off your warmth to space. But what about other frightening consequences? I guess everyone remembers the famous Total Recall scene where the main character's eyes pop out of their sockets. In fact, the sudden vacuum will cause the air in the lungs to expand, which can be fatal if that air isn't quickly exhaled. So, in outer space, the advice to just exhale and relax takes on a new meaning. Besides, decompression can lead to embolism, a condition when environmental pressure lowers the boiling point of body fluids and they start to evaporate. It can lead to vascular occlusion. However, even in that case, a person won't really turn into a blood fountain like is frequently shown in sci-fi movies. Oddly enough, one of the most realistic spacewalk scenes is from A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, filmed back in 1968, long before computer special effects and all of that jazz. It seems that a director's gut feeling sometimes tells more truth than scientific discoveries. In what other perceptions of space do you think can turn out to be only our imagination?